Welcome to the Conclave.
Hey everyone, and thank you for joining us here at The Conclave. This week's episode, we're talking close the gate, lock the door, shut your blinds, wardings and protections. They're out there. They're coming for you. They're going to get you.
They're really not.
But what
But
if they are?
but you should always lock your doors.
100%.
It may not even be anything evil. It could just be kids in the neighborhood trying doors for shits and giggles. Lock your doors.
Yes. Very much so. And as important it is to be in the habit of locking your doors every time you leave to go somewhere, it's equally as important to do so spiritually. Especially after cleansing, which is what we talked about last time. So the reason why it's important to do protections and wardings as soon as we get done cleansing is
Because once you've kicked everything out, you're leaving a vacuum. You need to fill it. And before you can fill it, you need to make sure nothing can get in the meantime.
exactly. You can kick a burglar out of your house, but if you don't shut the door behind them, they're just going to stroll right back in.
Exactly.
All right. So now, what is, let's say, the definition and the differences between protections and wardings?
I feel personally like protections are things that you have to constantly refresh. There's something you put on every day. There's something that maybe travels with you personally. There are things that maybe wash off in the rain or things like that. Like they are a temporary fixture. Whereas wards are very much more a long-term set and forget kind of situation. Um, so there's something that you would maybe bury in your yard, something you would plant, something that would be more self-sustaining. You may have to refresh them once in a while or care for them if it's a living plant or something along those lines. Um, but they are very much part of the landscape of your domicile.
Okay. So, and putting mildly, when you look at it, these are just things that we can do spiritually and at times physically that keep negativity, bad emotions, spirits, people, whatever, however you want to look at it, out of our energetic spaces. Okay. So this is very much just like physical protection and making sure your stuff is physically safe, just on the spiritual side.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we're going to be covering today is, again, it's general stuff. It's stuff that comes or stuff that comes from our practices, which is very heavily influenced with Appalachian folk magic, because we both grew up in you know the Appalachians in one way, shape, or form or another, whether it be kind of in the foothills or spent time directly in the peak of the mountains or wherever we're at. We've always kind of been within at least the shadow of the Appalachians. So there's a big draw for us on that. And that really does help out big time when you're looking at wardings and protections, because an important part of that is using, especially when you're looking at like your home area, it's using what the land provides for you and using the land as part of, as long as it's willing.
Yeah, it's building relationship with the land around you to a mutual benefit.
Yep. Now, Appalachian folk magic falls under an umbrella category, a little bit broader of a category, where I think we have mentioned this before, called conjure. Underneath that same umbrella, you have hoodoo, which a little bit of that does somewhat touch into our practice, because we have a very good friend who is a hoodoo practitioner that has challenged us and our growth throughout the years and vice versa. So, because we are close knit, not a coven, but you learn from each other, you grow and you adapt. So it does kind of bleed in a little bit the more you hang out with people.
Yeah. And it's a lot of working within magic is a lot of experimentation. So a lot of it's bouncing ideas off of each other and giving it a shot, see what sticks at the wall.
Being a mad scientist.
Yeah, it's the mad scientist construct.
Which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, okay. I know we kind of somewhat touched on this already, but when is a good time for wardings and protections? Is this
Always.
just when, like, you think somebody might be throwing something at you, like, oh, Becky down the street's pissed off, I stole her man, and now she's hexing me.
No, and you know what? You should have put up your protections before you started sleeping with Becky's man. Um,
Touche.
but in general, like, you don't wait for there to be a fire to install a fire alarm.
It's a good way to put it.
You know, like, too little, too late there, my guy.
Yeah.
You want to be doing these things regularly. You want to be maintaining them regularly. You don't want to wait until there's a problem
Now,
to try to backtrack.
when there is a problem, this is one of those times that you cleanse and then rebuild and re-maintain your wardings and protection, so it keeps it
Keeps it fresh.
active, keeps it fresh, and because a wall that's had
A catapult boulder thrown at it, it's still going to crumble a little bit, so you're going to have to set something else.
Okay, so we'll break it down into two, and then we'll kind of touch base on things to look at into each of them. So let's start with protections, since these are the less permanent ones and ones that we'll have to do more regularly. Is there anything that we can do protection-wise that doesn't entail any kind of ingredients, objects, or anything of the such?
Yeah, like there's grounding for one,
Okay.
because anytime you are connecting yourself and putting yourself 10 toes down into the earth, you are constructing somewhat of a wall around you, or at least shunting some negativity back down into the earth. So I think just grounding in general, like if you're feeling like you're being attacked, guess what? Go outside and stand. Go touch grass. It's so important. And then there's the egg shielding exercise, which
Okay.
is super helpful, and honestly can go hand in hand with the grounding exercise, because
Almost like a cleansing and protecting all of its own.
exactly. So basically what you do is you imagine yourself inside an egg. The egg can be made out of whatever material works for you. But you keep your body and your energy inside that egg, that little dome, and start separating what's you from everybody around you. This is also really, really important for people who like consider themselves empath or who pick up other people's energy very easily. You need to know where you are before you can do anything. So this is an incredibly important exercise. I recommend doing it every day, in the shower, while you're getting ready, anytime that you start feeling a little discombobulated, a little energetically overwhelmed. This is a great time for you to stop, pause, put that little eggshell up around you, and just be in your own field for a little bit.
So for those of you out there that can't just have that mental image of the eggshell appearing around you or appearing in front of you for you to step into, however you like to do it, the way I kind of taught myself and have always done it is I always picture just a little ball of light right in the heart area, and then just as I breathe, watching it expand and expand, all obviously all within your mind's eye, but and then until it keeps expanding until it's large enough that now it is that eggshell surrounding you. So if you can't just be like, boom, there's my shell,
And the more you
into it,
practice it,
the easier it
the
becomes.
easier it'll
Now I
become.
don't have to sit there and do that whole exercise, but it's something I've been doing for years upon years upon years at this point. Heck, mine takes on more of like a suit of armor kind of feel and aspect to it, where it's actually closer to the skin. That way, people don't get a weird push away feeling when they come towards you. It's a little bit more inviting, but it still helps keep out their energy. And like Jess said, this is something that's really important for people who think they might be empaths or clairsentients. This is a way to help keep other people's energy from influencing you. So practice this one big time if you fall into those categories.
And like his is a suit of armor, mine is wings. And it made a lot of sense when I finally did a journey to find my animal guide that it was a hawk. And I was like, that makes so much sense that I have been using that energy this whole time.
Yeah. I know when I was a few years ago before the shop opened, I started a job with one of the local hospitals, and I was in the food and nutrition department. And essentially, I took the meal orders for the patients, made sure their trays were built properly, delivered them, picked them up, took more orders. We were waitresses at medical denny's. But that technique came in very, very handy when I was at work because there's a lot of heavy feelings and emotions in hospitals. So it helped keep it at bay, right? So anybody on here that is part of the medical field or works in those kind of environments, this is huge for it. Um, when I would have to take trash out, we'd walk by uh, the giant walk-in cooler that doesn't belong to the kitchen but belongs to the hospital instead. I would have to put it up there because there's a lot of unrelieved energy there.
Yeah.
So it was very key in a lot of spots. So this is one cannot emphasize enough on, and we teach just about every single new person that comes through that door
Yeah.
this technique.
Especially the ones that come in crying.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also, there's also meditation.
Yeah.
So when you're doing when you taking your 10-15 minutes at the end of the day, the beginning of the day, whenever you do it, spend some of that time trying to concentrate and trying to build up your own personal defenses. Okay. Okay. Let's go to everyone's favorite thing to buy first. Not just first is for protection, but first when they jump into this world.
Well, prime example of what did you use at the hospital?
So, this is a very good one. And I had this down here for more uncommon crystals. But ruby zoisite. Ruby zoisite is good for a handful of things. I can honestly not tell you what its most popular attributes are.
Yeah.
Because I don't use it for that. And I stopped using it for that long ago. One of its less known uncommon features is that it will help empaths and clairsentients still read a person's emotions, still feel and understand their emotions, but it helps block it so that you don't take on the emotions yourself. So that if somebody else is crying, now you're crying and sad. If somebody's mad, now you're mad. This stops this gets I can still feel your underlying emotions, but I don't have to feel them either, right?
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't use this permanently, and I didn't. What I found was eventually my own self workings and my own self protections got big enough and good enough to not need it anymore. And I realized that as I was trying to sit there and use my gifts, I couldn't.
It was a little too much of a block.
It was too much of a block now because my own personal inner stuff had taken over what it was supposed to do, and it was reaching out further. So I stopped wearing it at that point once I got it there. But it's a very, very wonderful tool to use until you're able to have that better control over what it is.
Or in stressful situations. Like, I mean, it's something, I'll still reach for like a funeral or something, where there's going to be a high emotional charge. Like, it doesn't hurt to be like, I don't need to read anybody today.
When I'm emotionally compromised myself,
and
it's can't hold it out on my own. Yeah, I'll pull some back out just on the safe side. Yeah, most definitely. Okay, some other common crystals and other things to look at in the crystal world. The basic belief and the basic thought process is if it's black, it's for protection.
Yeah.
Period. Now they all have their own kind of protection that they dole out, but that's the general rule. Black crystals, protection.
Yeah. So you'll usually see like the two most common that we get customers for and stuff would be black tourmaline and hematite. I mean, you've all probably seen the hematite rings that are sold, and everyone tells you, oh, it absorbs negativity until it can't anymore and it breaks off.
Or it breaks off because you tapped down.
Or it breaks off because you smacked it on the bar too hard or something, which I've had happen.
Yep.
But hematite typically absorbs the negativity around you and does transmute it into energy you can use.
Yep.
So it is more of a filter for energy.
It's very much a tree, taking carbon dioxide, giving off oxygen, takes in the negativity, pumps out some positivity.
And, not every crystal is going to work for every person in every situation too. I wear hematite all the time. Like, that's my main bracelet that I wear. Pat is more of a black tourmaline guy,
which is more of a psychic protection.
Yeah, it really has more to do with just like how you work, how you roll, what energies you work with, who you're working with, things like that.
Yeah. And then to other varying degrees, you have onyx, you have obsidian, you have jet. So there's a lot of black
shungite.
There's a lot of black stones out there. They all have their specific type of of protection that they do. So, your first step when you're looking for which one to use for you, just stand in front of any metaphysical shop's tumbler, crystal table area.
Mm-hmm.
Hold your hands over top of the black stones. Don't touch. Not everybody likes it when you touch. At the menagerie, touch everything and anything you want.
Yeah, we don't care.
Cleanse. We don't care. Some places aren't fans of that, and I completely understand their standpoint on that as well. And it is what it is. It's a preference thing.
Mm-hmm.
So just in case, unless you know specifically, it's okay. Use the hover method, and feel for it. Feel for which type calls to you. Okay.
There's
After
really
you
no wrong
select-
answer.
Yeah, and after you select that stone, then do a little research into, okay, how does it protect? Because that might just be your guides and your ancestors telling you this is something you need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you need to be, not everywhere. So, let the energy of the crystals and the other side help guide you towards which ones are going to work best for you.
Absolutely.
And it can be more than one. There was a while there where I was carrying a protection bag of crystals that had both black tourmaline and hematite in it. It's what I needed at the time.
Yeah, you needed that extra battery.
Yep. So, let's see. Okay, we'll jump back over to some more uncommon ones. For these, I have listed ammonites, petrified wood, abalone shell, and Shiva's eye.
I love anything that used to be alive.
But how does those, because they don't have actual protective properties, so how do those translate into protection?
Well, ancestor work. So
Mhm.
it's definitely anything that used to be alive is really great for ancestor veneration. Also, seeing as all these things used to be alive, it's really great for working with your local spirits. So, I mean, petrified wood is fantastic for that personally.
Yep.
These are things that are also very, if you're going to be burying stuff in the ground, these are things that are fairly safe to do so. But in general, they're really great in just communicating with those who have been here before or some of those that are still naturally with the land.
And I know we all have ancestors and family members that we might not be the proudest of, or that wouldn't agree with this direction of your life. Understand this, tapping into those ancestors that are hanging around you already.
Hmm.
So if they are hanging around you, they are definitely looking out for your best interest.
And part of ancestor work is not just ancestral veneration, it's unpacking some of the shit your ancestors did.
Yep.
And learning from that. So keep in mind that, yeah, you're not going to work with your racist great uncle, but you're going to need to learn from his mistakes.
Yep. As someone who has actively watched ancestors walk away during meditation because they didn't approve, I can tell you the ones that stayed, whether they liked the direction or not, they're there to help, and they approve to that degree that's it's necessary and needed.
Yeah.
So
Those are the ones that are going to be helping you out.
big time. So yeah, so that's why these stones, although they're not necessarily protective stones, I like to throw them in there because of the ancestral tie to it. They're also great cleansing stones because they are good grounding stones. Again, when something was alive and is now a rock, it does aid in grounding, so therefore it aids in cleansing. So this is a cleansing protection stone all in one. So
And both
real great.
like the Shiva eye and ammonite, because they are like shell forms, you have that Fibonacci sequence
Yeah.
involved with that. So you can talk about a great meditation aid.
Yeah. Also energy keepers and builders, the spiraling aspect to it. So yeah. They're all around great stones. You can use them for a lot of things, protection being one of them. So the next thing we'll talk about is amulets and talismans. So this will include the jewelry we put on and take off every day.
Rings, bracelets, crucifixes.
This includes mojo bags or sachet bags, or just bags, crystal bags in general. And it includes sigils. And the sigils would typically then be drawn onto a piece of jewelry or clothing or onto the body or something of the such.
And oils.
And oils.
Which
you can for using to draw the sigils.
Yeah, you can draw sigils on yourself with just like protection oil. You can add protection oil to like your hands or your head, like where you feel the need to be protected. you can add it into like your shampoos while you're showering. You're adding some protection and things like that. But these are things that are going to be temporary or things that you can remove.
Yeah.
They will need to be refreshed. They will need cleansed usually at the end of the day. Um, so these are things to keep in mind when you're hanging out with those.
I mean, heck, if you create a sigil to keep the house safe during thunderstorms or tornadoes or hurricanes, you can use the oil to anoint the outside of the house with that sigil. It's going to get washed away. It's temporary, so it's a protection, not a warding. But the oils are good for putting things really in any place.
Yeah, I mean, we'll use protection oil to lock our mirrors.
Yep.
Or doors after we're done cleansing. It's a really quick and easy way to add a little bit of a layer. But every time we wash our windows, guess what? or wash our mirrors, like that's gonna
do something.
It's gonna need to be reapplied.
So jumping back up to the sachets and mojo bags. So this is one item that is both protections and wardings. They can be used for either. And when it gets to the warding side, we'll discuss how we did it for that, or what you can do for that. But as far as like as a personal protection, these would be stuff like filling bags with crystals and then throwing in some herbs
or some salt
or
or
some
like
salt or something like for symbolism, like a little sticker of a police badge
or some iron filings or like
coffin nail. Anything that resembles and represents protection, you can put in the bag, carry around with you, and that will help as a protection along the way. Now, sachets and mojos are a little bit different in that mojo bags are more typically seen as a living thing.
and need to be
So it
fed.
needs to be fed at least once a week. Now, that could be just putting a little dollop of protection oil on it, or a little bit of booze, or something along those lines. Um, you know, but it has to be done every week. It has to have intention and discussion put towards it. It's a living thing that you're creating, so you have to treat it as such.
Yes.
Sachet bags can be done the same way, but they seem to be they're more as I understand them as a one-off bag to carry around with you.
They're a little more passive, I feel like.
Yeah. So that's where we get all that kind of good stuff for. There are a few things that, looking at some of our Appalachian books that I've seen throughout the years and really have enjoyed. One is a travel mojo bag or sachet, and this is where you would fill with 9 yarrow leaves, 3 pennies, and some dust from the home.
And this is to ensure you get home safely.
It's a nice, safe get home. The pennies are a little bit of prosperity in there. There's also, you're looking at copper. You're looking at a kind of a, is copper, is that what I'm thinking of? No.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. It's like, wait a second.
It's a conductor.
Yeah. So, another one for getting rid of the evil eye. Now there's going to be some graveyard work concept in here with this. I highly recommend before you go, ooh, I want to try that one, do some research into proper graveyard etiquette.
Yes.
And or wait for episode 9, because in 2 more episodes, we are going to do an episode that's got some goofy name like Quietest Neighbors Ever.
Yeah.
And it's about proper graveyard etiquette, how to enter the graveyard, how to ask for permissions, what to do once you're in there, how to look for the right grave to use for your workings. So this one, shelf a little bit until we're able to discuss it more. And then also, we'll go over the differences between cemeteries and graveyards
in episode 9.
In episode 9. But this one, you would take some red yarn and you want to go to the oldest grave in the graveyard or cemetery. You walk counterclockwise around the oldest grave, wrapping the yarn around your wrist for every full turn while citing Psalm 23. And that's your protection. If you're thinking that people are doing workings against you, a couple good protections that you can go-to. You can carry a sack with a horseshoe nail, some ivy root, and blessed salt. You can put salt, black pepper, or red pepper into your shoes. Or you can then put a silver dime on your ankle.
It needs to be silver, so that means minted before 1965.
Yeah. Before that, it was like a 90-10 split of silver and copper or whatnot. Now it's
That's basically pot metal.
yeah. Anything that you can think of on that would add nicely into there?
Well, I think you covered most of them. I had something and then I forgot it, so it must not be important. Or I'm just that tired.
There's a little bit of that in there too. Okay, so why don't you take over for us on Wardings?
All right, so this is my bread and butter. I love doing these.
True.
So first we have land spirits. No matter where you live, you have spirits that live there too. I don't care if you're in the middle of New York City or out in the sticks. There are spirits that live there as well.
These are all animistic beliefs, so everything
Has a spirit.
Has a spirit or an energy, or however you want to look at it.
So, the first thing, and this is the first thing we did when we moved into our house 10 years ago.
Let's give them the warning that we didn't receive until after we were dumb enough to do it. Don't mess with the fae. Don't touch or don't talk to. Don't mess with the she.
It's okay.
Just because it worked out okay for us doesn't mean it was the smartest move.
I mean, be respectful and
Yes, we knew at least that much.
yeah. But offerings, when their land is your land. So, this is finding something that is appropriate to leave outside, because we don't want to necessarily invite them indoors. Typical offerings for land spirits include things like baked goods, dairy, a little bit of chocolate, but not too much because you know the raccoons are going to get to it. Even like fresh fruit, honey, a little bit of booze. Again, not too much because you know the animals are going to go for it. And tea, coffee, we do both of those. Don't make any promises, don't ask for any favors, and set your boundaries. Be like, hey, I know you guys were here before me, but I would like, this is my house. I'm cool with you guys being out here, but this is my house. And then on occasion, just leave something outside for them. We do coffee and tea once a week. And occasionally on like bigger occasions, we'll put out, or if we just have something really nice, we'll put out something else to add to sweeten the pot, so to speak.
So when we first moved in, our house it's about 2.5, 3 sides of it is in woods, right?
Pretty much.
And right at the edge of the house and the one section of woods was where Jess chose to put her garden. And there was just a perfect little like beginning of a rock alcove or
Like little retaining wall that somebody had put up there.
Of natural, like it wasn't
Of like river rock
stuff, but it was of river rock. And we're like, oh, that'd be so cool. We could set up an altar to the she. So we did it up. We brought over some more rock that we had from the other side of the house,
Flattened it out.
Flattened that out, put a bird bath basin in it, put sections of there was an old tree stump in the yard that I cut down a little bit further. So we used parts of that to create little tables to put it on and little offering spots. Somehow we found shells.
I had a bunch of shells from something.
So we put those in there, and that's where we would put the offerings directly into and on top of. And we made a little rock pathway through the garden to it. And like she said, we would put out the occasional offerings. In the beginning, we were not very good at remembering to bring them out. No. But we also made the deal. You can be in the woods, you can be in the garden, you can be in the yard. You're not invited to come into the house. Yeah. That's never going to be okay. Please don't come into the house. And we didn't ever ask for anything. We just gave the offerings. And, on top of offerings, also what we do is
care for the yard, care for the yard.
Anytime we have vegetable or fruit scraps, we just open the door, toss it out in the yard.
Yeah, we have a compost pile.
Yeah.
That we.
But even if they don't make it to the compost pile, it's still, we're giving food to the critters that are out about. There's a bunch of
Raccoons, groundhogs,
crows, possums, you name it. We get it. We have a herd of deer that has walked through our woods in our backyard almost every single day for the last 10 years.
We're up to 7 this year.
Nice. So, when you throw your scraps out, you're feeding the animals. And while those aren't being offered to the spirits, the spirit is watching you feed and take care of the nature that lives in the area, and it gains you some favor.
And quick caveat on this part. I only put out food that would grow in the area that they would naturally be able to either steal from somebody's garden or would grow naturally. Like, don't put out banana peels.
No.
Like, if you're going to compost banana peels, those need to be well buried. If you're going to compost mango, that needs to be well buried. Like, those don't grow here.
Yeah.
But if you got some apple cores or some strawberry tops, some bell pepper innards, like zucchini scraps, like that shit grows crazy.
That's type stuff. The knob of the iceberg lettuce.
Yeah, like
stuff like that. And what we found was our wardings and our protections were beefed up.
Yeah.
Because the land spirits and the she who want to come across and spend a little time there, it's become their home. It's become their yard, their woods. They also are taking some stance to it, some pride in it, and they have helped boost the wars. They've helped keep things off of the property.
Yeah.
So, use that land, use the spirits around you to help beef it up. Don't ask them to do it. Don't expect them to do it.
But it's one of those, like, it once they start seeing it as their boundaries too, they take a kind of a personal.
They want to protect their home as well.
Yeah. The next thing is natural things that you can do in and around your house that can act as wards. And the first thing, yeah, definitely with crocodiles.
Yes.
Plant protections, and this means growing them in. You can grow them in pots. You can plant them in the ground, but there are a lot of plants that naturally offer some protections. Thistle, that shit grows wild around our yard. That's a ward against lightning and intruders. Rosemary wards against thieves. Juniper wards against spirits, hexes, and psychic attacks. Calendula wards against evil and negativity. Chamomile sprinkled around the house to ward against fires and lightning strikes. So, like, notice how not all of this is warding against spirits. It's warding against shit that happens. That is okay to do. Holly is also a great ward. Burdock wards against the evil eye. When you can also utilize the pieces of these plants in wards simply because, like, if it's spiky or spicy, add it to a jar, bury it in your yard. You have a ward. We also typically like to make our wards hit back. It's not that we're attacking somebody. It's that if you are dumb enough to come at me, you deserve what you're fucking getting.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. 34 minutes.
That's not too bad.
So yeah, like, I'm not going to be mad when my guard dog bites you.
No.
Like, I'm not going to feel guilty for that when you broke in my home. Thorny branches over your doors, blackberry, hawthorn, black locust. These are all things that pretty much grow wild into a point of almost invasiveness. So if you're cutting back some stuff in the spring and you come across some, like, pricker bushes, and you're going to cut it down anyway because you have to, because it's not where it's supposed to be, or it's getting overgrown or whatever, ask it. Be like, hey, I got to cut you back. You're like taking over my mailbox. I need to cut you back. Do you mind if I take one of these branches and hang them over my door? And a lot of time, like, You're going to have to learn how to talk to the talk to plants to really get a proper feel of the response. But you can always use a pendulum or like a tarot card or something, until you can get that discernment.
And you're not going to hear a direct like, yes.
Yeah, you're not going to hear yes. You're just going to get like a feeling or
get that feel of positivity or negativity.
Right. So when that happens, hey, do you mind if I throw one of these over my door to protect? They say yes. You just hang that above your front door, your back door, any door. And yeah, keeping your yard trimmed, kept and watered. I mean, this goes into the taking care of the land. So you do want to cut things back that need to be cut back. You do want to remove things that are invasive. You do want to remove things that are choking out other plants, because you are not just here to let the land go wild. You're there as a warden of the land at that point. So you want to be working with the land, not against it.
Yep.
And don't let it work against itself either. Other external things you can do, wind chimes, warding brooms, broom up, broom down. Bottle tree. I have a facsimile of a bottle tree at our house. We do cobalt blue hanging.
Go into what a bottle tree is initially.
So initially a bottle tree is a Southern Appalachian thing where you would basically put a bunch of cobalt blue bottles in a tree formation in your yard. It's either done on a tree or it's done, on like a post and designed to look like a tree. And the idea is that the blue glass traps any evil spirits or haints in the bottle until sunrise, when it will be dissipated by the sunlight. So it's a protection against spirits, evil spirits. So we have a facsimile of that with a bunch of hanging blue ornaments. We just do not have the facilities to specifically build a bottle tree or a tree that I want to sacrifice to that.
Yeah.
So we came up with a compromise with one of the ash trees in our front yard.
Yep.
And then there's a lot of things you can do with like the four corners of your property. Anything you make, and this goes back to the sachets. You can turn sachets into wards. I am going to put this caveat on: anything you put outside needs to belong outside.
Yep.
It needs to be something that will biodegrade. It needs to be something that will not harm the land.
Yep.
So when you build these sachets and wards, be very mindful of what you're adding to it and ensure that it is something that is safe to use, because there are animals and insects and plants that are going to be interacting with that item. And I don't think you can truly call yourself, somebody who is in tune with nature and is trying to work with the natural energies, and then you litter.
You put plastic and chemicals into the ground. That wouldn't be good.
And people are like, oh yeah, you just throw that into a river. And I'm like, that is going to be garbage. Like, do your best to, when you're putting stuff out in nature, that it is stuff that belongs in nature.
That's, and here's, so let's say you do put it in the running water. Two quick little things on this, because there's different things you can put in there, right? Like Jess said, natural. Make sure it's going to be able to dissipate away. But if it's an active spell that you want to keep active and going, don't throw it in the flowing water. It's just going to carry it away. It's going to get rid of it.
Okay, it's going to cleanse it. Flowing water cleanses.
If you're doing something spicy, don't throw it into the ocean. Salt is a massive cleanser. We're getting a little bit of a cackle over here because we at one point had practitioners bragging about throwing something at us, and that they energized it by throwing it into the ocean.
Into a massive body of flowing salt water.
Which will do nothing but cleanse away and protect against and around.
Yeah, it's literally just No, that was the dumbest fucking thing they could have done.
Probably not the best time to insert that in the conversation because it doesn't necessarily go along with today's topic, but she made me think about it.
Yeah.
It's been a handful of years now, and I still chuck my little rear end off every time I think about it.
Yeah.
But show them.
But yeah, you can build different like sachets that you can bury in your yard. Just use natural fibers. I mean, it's really easy. Maybe not as easy anymore now that Joann Fabrics is out of business, but it's usually fairly easy to find like cotton material to use. Old t-shirts are great for this, to be honest.
Yeah.
You got something with a little too many holes in it, repurpose it. Reduce, reuse, recycle. So yeah, you could build those and bury them in the four corners of your house with different, sigils written on paper, different herbs, things like that you can utilize to.
Yeah.
And I don't even really necessarily have a problem if you're burying something like if you have coffin nails in it or like, like that nail's going to like, first off, yeah, and you kind of do want something with a little bit of staying power because you don't want this to melt away every season, like it's meant to set and forget. So
it's going to be there a while. So
you want it to be there a while, but you don't want it to like, completely
go away.
Yeah.
Real quick fun story into the brooms. Since we told them a little bit about the bottle tree, what that's supposed to do. The whole initial thought process with the broom is that you leave it out on your porch next to your front door or right inside the door. The choice is up to you. Most people put it outside so it stays out of the way of you being indoors. The whole thought process is that the witch that's coming for you or the haint that's trying to sneak into your house is going to get caught up counting the bristles. And because they're not exactly supposed to be great at counting, it's going to take them all night long. And
again, the sun comes up,
chases them away. I personally like to add a little bit to my broom. So, we have 2 external doors at our house. Each one has its own broom. Each one has a protection bottle attached to it. So it's kind of a double whammy in the protection. And then some cinnamon sticks for abundance. So you're adding a little luck to that also. So we like to layer things.
Yeah.
Right? And
words should be many and varied.
Yes. Should be like ogres and onions.
But like, so if they get through one, there's like 15 more in place that they're like, fit. And it usually discourages most things from being a problem.
Yeah. Especially since, when you first start doing all of this, you're going to obviously not be the greatest at it, right? It's going to take time and practice. So you're starting with things closest to the house.
Yeah.
And then as you learn and as you develop,
you're going to start.
That border pushes outward. And before you realize it, you have those 15 layers of wardings, with the most powerful being the further one out.
And you don't have to set them all at once.
Yeah.
Start one, then another, like, because it's very energetically draining to, especially when you first start out, to be setting these wards and boundaries. Just knocking everything over.
Yep.
So start with one. And then maybe, in a month or two, do another. Set something different. When you're planting your herb garden, make decisions based on what they do as well as what you want to grow.
Yeah.
And that way you can incorporate. Now you have wards that you're not really energetically supplying except for to feed, water, prune, weed, that kind of thing.
So let's see. Okay, this will be the next, guys. I thought of something different yesterday when we were going over our notes.
Oh, okay.
And I want to make sure we didn't overspeak it. We did not.
So yeah, that kind of takes care of shit you can do outside.
Okay. So now indoor stuff.
Classic one, horseshoe. Needs to be used. And should be iron.
Yep.
This is not the time to buy something decorative.
Life hack on this one though. those things are still going to be dirty.
Oh, they're rusty and dirty.
I don't care how much they've been cleaned and chunks of dirt taking off of it, it's going to still be dirty. Wrap it in tinfoil. Doesn't affect the potency of the ward. It doesn't affect any of the energetic stuff. It doesn't block anything except for dirt and rust from flaking off, hitting you in the head, or getting all over your floor.
Every time you open your door. Sigils. This is something we used to do. Pat designed a sigil specifically for protecting our house from certain things, and he drew it on a piece of little pieces of paper. We took a little thumbtack and put it over every window and door in the house.
Every external.
Yeah, every external portal, basically.
Yeah.
And then we took that sigil, drew it on a bay leaf, and we burned that bay leaf to activate the sigils. And then every time we cleansed, we would draw that sigil in a bay leaf and reactivate it.
Yep. I don't know if you guys have ever seen, now it's old, but there's an old horror movie. It's Tales from the Crypt Keeper, Demon Knight. And I won't get into the synopsis is long. It's a really great movie. Watch it. But they would use a little dollop of the blood of Christ to touch into a door frame or a window frame or any kind of opening. And the movie effects would have like this glowing lines going around it and meeting at the top. And that creates this barrier, this red see-through barrier against demons. So when I would burn that, in my mind's eye, what I'm seeing around every door and thing is that same kind of light going around, creating a force field. And then anytime that I would walk by one of them, I'd throw a little energy into it. And I would just picture that shield around that specific door, or that specific window.
Mm-hmm.
And it lasts like that for a while. Then, once a month, once every 3 months, however long it had been, I would draw another sigil on a bay leaf and burn it and reactivate it. This is a way to make a sigil from a protection to a warding, because otherwise you would have to go through and replace every little single one every couple of days. This, because you're now able to feed some energy into it every time you go by, and then you're able to activate it with the burning of one, you've created a complex system. We don't use that anymore because the same ocean people, thought we were friends at the time, and we told them about it because I thought it was clever. And it's like, well, never mind.
Now they know.
Can't use that to protect the house. But I do use the burning of a sigil to activate a more permanent one as a part of activation and how their spell works.
Yep. Mirror. We actually have a mirror with a sigil on it facing outside of our house.
This is a type of sigil that was created, and I for a lot of my sigils, I like to use wordings, pictures, and dead languages, like runes and Ogham.
Mm-hmm.
This one was more of creating like a maze for the energy to kind of get sucked into, turned around, and
shunted back out.
Because that was the help of the mirror. The mirror is to help them be reflected back out. This is just a little extra added oomph to
it. Crystals. Oh wait, sorry, skipped one. Fennel seed.
Well, the fennel seeds and the crystals can be used as kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Fennel seed is just an old way of warding against witchcraft. So they would just take little bags of fennel seeds and put them over top their door or on the doorknob or something along those lines to keep the witches out. And that's kind of what you would do with your crystals also. And you can put it on next to the door. But I've always found right on top of the door frame is such a great place to put, especially like the rectangular selenite ones.
Mm-hmm.
It fits so perfectly up there.
And if you're struggling with that coming off because of, your door shakes a lot when you enter an extra, double-sided tape.
Yeah.
Just a little double-sided tape, pop it up there. It'll help it stick there. Tree agate is also on this list for things. Tree agate's really great. Bury it in your garden. Mm-hmm. It's really great for your plants. As far as like supporting their growth, and it's really great as a communication between your land spirits. So I really like that one in potted plants or in the garden.
And of course, clear quartz is just a great one to put with this. Any of your black crystals also, or your fossilized living things, all that stuff is good for it. Clear quartz is just a nice amplifier, and on top of it, it's programmable. So you can be like, you're one badass guardian that you make everything else badass around you too. And it just works really good.
Crosses or crucifixes, if you are so inclined. I know that's not everybody who's listening's bag of tea, but it's still very much a protection. You just need to treat it as such.
Yep.
Powders.
And that touches into Salem's Lot, which is a book from Stephen King. And, the vampire comes into town, starts killing the whole town. Priest squares off against vampire. And initially, the cross and the crucifix is keeping it at bay. But then the vampire starts slowly breaking down the priest's faith. And as the priest's faith starts wavering a little bit, well, now that cross just becomes a piece of wood in his hands.
Yeah.
And they can get right by it. So is it necessarily the religious aspect of it? It's going to be, partly. Is it that it's blessed by clergy? That'll be part of it. But it's more of the belief that we put in this object.
Well, and that's why, for those of you who are not into Christianity, it doesn't necessarily have to be a cross. It could be any symbol that you associate.
Be a triangle to recognize as a pyramid.
Yeah.
A wonderful tool and imagery in the metaphysical world.
Powders and salts. These are things that can be utilized as wards. Black salt being numero uno right there. Basically, you cleansed your house, you have all that leftover ash, you have some leftover incense ash, mix that all in with salt, or you burned off a protection sigil, or you burned off a protection spell with a bunch of with an incense that you made, or a powdered herb blend. Take all of that, mix it into salt, you have black salt. Now you have a protective ingredient to use with anything that you need.
We're also talking at this point here some red brick dust, which is a conjure ingredient of building a wall. Kind of the basics of those dusts, which then goes next into hot foot powder and then eventually goofer dust. Hot foot powder, a little spicier, especially the
big fan of hot foot.
The one we make here at the shop. There's a whole lot of spiciness to it. A lot of black peppers, cayenne pepper, Carolina Reaper pepper.
You put Szechuan in there too.
Yeah, put Szechuan peppers in it. So it is real spicy.
Yeah.
But that's what it's there for. It's to get things away.
It's to discourage anything from lingering and stay out.
Yeah. All right, let's see. There's also the aspect of these powders as it can be hidden in plain sight, which this was something our friend Arlene brought up to us.
Yeah.
About putting it underneath her welcome mat.
Yeah, she wrote Psalm 23, I think it was. She went out and bought a new welcome mat. It's not a welcome mat, it's just a place to wipe your feet. But because you don't want a welcome mat. You really don't. Don't welcome anything.
We just mentioned vampires. All they have to do to be welcome to your house is to read that mat.
Yeah.
Welcome, come on in.
So yeah, if you have a mat to wipe your feet on, it needs to be innocuous. Or it needs to be I didn't ask you to be here. Go the fuck home.
Yeah. Now, and this is in all honesty, and I don't know the outcome of the case, but there was a case being argued that a burglar had the right to be in the domicile because the welcome mat says, "Welcome, you're welcome. Come on in."
Yeah.
And that was used. And I don't remember how the outcome of that trial eventually went, but
if humans will use that logic, other things will use that logic. Return to senders also. That's where a lot of this spiciness and spikiness that we were talking about comes into play.
Yep.
We don't want their stank ass energy to stick around. So when they get hit, it bounces right back.
Right back to them.
That's what the mirror is involved in. This is a lot of stuff that is involved in being bitch, get the fuck back and enjoy what you just tried to send at me, by the way.
And that also adds as a fun little, I see you Because if you hadn't have somebody come at you being like, why'd you throw a spell at me? Why'd you throw a hex at me? You didn't. But they may have just activated your wards,
Which we've had happen.
which we've had happen.
I've literally had people come to me and beg me to remove the hex I placed upon them, complete with bringing offerings. This is the weirdest fucking thing that's ever happened. Genuflected in front of me and held up a 6-pack, begging me for mercy, and I'm like, I didn't do shit.
Y'all, seriously, if you want your life to get weird, but weird also in a good way, not saying in a bad way, in a good way, either open a metaphysical store or get really involved in your local metaphysical spiritual thing.
There are like 6 of us sitting there, like,
wild.
Shit gets weird. Begging me to remove this, and I'm like, I didn't do shit to you. He's like, well, everything I
did
showed that it was coming from here, and I'm like, well, there's probably like my return to senders. Like, maybe just mind your fucking business. Like, everything I did against you specifically was just to make you go over there. So if you're getting hit, maybe keep your energy to yourself.
Look in a mirror, because that's what's being used.
That's what's being used, my guy. But yeah, the welcome mat with something like, again, if you're not doing Psalms, you can write your sigils underneath. You can use it to put like your hot foot or your red brick dust down without it being like all over and you're not tracking it in and out.
So since we're on doormats and that falls more into the decor and spells, let's just keep going with the decor and talk about some other decor that is really beneficial for this. And I thought this yesterday. It wasn't in, we're using an outline from an old class of mine, but adding to it, because you know what? This class was like 2 years ago. We've learned a lot since then, so we get to add to it. And I don't know if these are really much of a thing anymore, but they were really big back in like the late 80s, early 90s, and mid 90s. And those are door snakes. They were those like cloth things that your parents would put in front of behind the door, and it just helps keep the wind and the cold out. But it makes extra seal on the bottom. But what you can do is with these, you can fill them with salt. You can add red brick. You can add hot foot. You can add all these kind of other stuff too, other powders, or just use just plain old rock salt from whatever you have left over that didn't get used during the wintertime for melting the sidewalk, right? But now you have a line of salt going across your door, big enough that Sam and Dean will be proud of you.
And alien seal, we were talking about this, like that's all over the TikTok shop right now, and we got it for this winter, and it worked great, honestly.
It worked fantastic. It's just a rubber seal that it's pre-sticky, so it just gets stuck to your door and it overlaps to the door frame, so it covers off and blocks any kind of draft with a thick rubber. It's fantastic. It barely costs anything. It saved us at least $100+ per month during this winter, right? But you can draw sigils directly on it, whether it be with pen, marker, or oil.
Anoint it with oil would be another option. So like those would be great. Statuary pictures and alt wall hangings. Your decor can be utilized. So if you're working with somebody specific, obviously, like you create a sacred space for them, they're going to be invested in that sacred space. Your pictures, your wall hangings. Heck, you could have picture your kids' school pictures. Why don't you write some sigils on the back of that picture frame?
Give a little protection for them.
Protect them through the school year, or on the back of the picture, protect them through that school year. And when you change it out, you change up the ward a little bit.
And this is where like evil eye wall hangings come into play.
Yeah.
Evil eye / all-knowing eye.
All-seeing eye, yeah.
Kind of take on all those names, but this is one of, if not the oldest used warding in human history. It dates back to Mesopotamian times. There's a lot of cultures out there that like to try to claim it. Turkey, their heritage likes to claim it. The Greek heritage likes to claim it. But it does go back older than that. And it's also one of the first places, and I want to say maybe it was when it was in Turkey. Either Turkey or Greece is when it evolved and got the cobalt blue. put to it, but it does date much further back than that. It's that cobalt blue circle with the black circle, the white circle, and a pupil in it, right? We all know the ones we're talking about. And these are, it's not that it itself is evil, but it gives a stink eye.
Yeah.
It says, I see you, you get out of here now. It's that old man on his porch like, you don't get out of here.
Yeah, so those are really, really useful. And utilize, again, this is the more you can ward, the less often you'll have to cleanse.
Mm-hmm.
At least do large cleansings. When you're constantly maintaining your spiritual space, the less work you have to do at any given moment.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be 100% honest with you. Here at the shop, do we still have to cleanse fairly regularly? Yes. Even though we have
It's a public
decent
space.
wards up, it's a public space. Lots of people come in. Our house,
Very rarely.
maybe once or twice a year.
And let's face it, like, okay, so I have all these wards up. As it was discussed last episode, I add things to my cleaning to cleanse at the same time. So do I need to do a big cleanse all the time?
No.
Exactly.
When it's part of your day-to-day life, you never realize that you're doing.
Every once in a while you need to do some spring cleaning, sure, and that's when you do the big to-do.
Yeah.
But if you're regularly going like, okay, every Thursday is the bathroom, every Friday is the kids' room, when you're constantly working your way through the house and refreshing the spaces and cleansing it and cleaning it, there's a lot less like large maintenance that needs to be done.
Yeah. And our first warding, that is the property line. So, and it's there, and it's a little bit further in, and then a little bit further in, like 5 more before you hit the porch, 6 more before you get to the door. So it's so layered that it takes so much for the energy to get through. And that's if the land spirits even let it get that far.
Right.
So, the more you do, the more you practice it, the longer it lasts, the stronger it is. This is something that should be a day to day, right? So I've listed down here some fan favorites. We've kind of gone over most of them.
Yeah, we've touched on most
There
of this.
is one, and it comes from a very wonderful book called Of Blood and Bone.
Mhm.
I can't remember the author's name at the moment. It's Mary something or Kate or
I think it's
Mary or something.
Kate, and the last name I can never figure out how to pronounce.
But it's a fantastic book. Canadian author. Get it before the tariffs come in. But one of the spells, and this is for familial protection, is you need a white taper candle, a pin for every family member, moon blood. Ladies, you can figure out what this one is for you. Gentlemen, you can't produce it, so don't
try.
Don't try. If you don't like the aspect of use of blood, you can do stuff like spit, saliva, other bodily fluids. I would stay away from pee. That's kind of more of a hexen type thing.
I've used it in protection, so just like an animal pissing on and.
Oh yeah. No, I guess that is a good way to put it. So yeah, if you want to go that route for it.
I just don't know if I would put it on a candle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's something you'll be burning.
Yeah.
Or
Adam just goes.
Or you can just use protection oil. Okay. There's a lot of things you can do with it. Personally, being a fan of folk magic, I'm okay with a little spit. I'm okay with a little blood. I'm okay with, spit. So you would take the pins and you carve the first initial of each person of the house going down the candle, going from youngest at the top to yourself at the bottom. And when you get done carving it, then you would apply the blood. You would put a pin in at each name. So like for us, 4 people, this spell worked over 4 days. So you would then set it on a fire safe dish or candle holder or whatever it is.
Fire safety first.
With a piece of black cloth underneath that. You also need three thistles in, I like putting them on in equal spots around. If you all just go all in one lump or break them up and sprinkle around, the choice is up to you on that one. Okay. Um, so you have you have the initials carved, you have the candle anointed with the substance, you have your thistle down, you have a needle in at every person, and you light the candle, and you think about that the person as it burns down to that pin, and then you put the flame out. Now, some people will say, do not blow it out. It's an old wives' tale that as you blow out the candle, you blow away your workings and it doesn't get it done. Personally, I like licking the fingers and doing the pinch, but I always did that even as a kid because it was just more fun. Um, it's an old wives' tale. If you want to go by it, go by it. If you don't, don't. Just stay consistent. Okay. Don't from one spell go like, oh, I can't blow it away. It's not going to work. And then the next one be like, it's fine. Consistency is your key here. Okay. And then you let it sit for the day. Then the next day at the same time, or as close to that same time as possible, you light the candle again, and you just concentrate on that next person. Be done with it, and you just do this every day until every single person has been accounted for. You remove the dish, and you take the thistle and the wax and everything else, and the needles, everything you have left over from the spell. You use the black bag or the black cloth, tie it all up into a little pouch, and then you want to bury it outside as close to your front door as possible. Right? Does it have to be right at the front door? No. We have a deck. So it goes out and then it goes down. But as close as we can get it to that front door is where it's buried.
For those of you who maybe live in a apartment building, but you have like maybe a balcony where you have like a potted plant, put it at the bottom of the pot.
Put it at the bottom of the pot. Now, normally I wouldn't suggest going around telling people how you do your protection spells. But again, this one is so far behind so many other walls that if you can break this one, I don't think it's getting much further. I don't think it's going to get even to it. No offense to you. I'm sure you're very, very good at what you do, but.
And, we have discussed like 4 or 5 things that we have specifically in our property, and that doesn't even scratch the surface.
Nope.
So.
No. I dread the day when we sit there and go, oh, we have to redo all of it.
That's why I tried to like.
That's
why I make one
little bit here and there.
That's why I make like one more at least every year.
So yeah, and I think the only other thing that's kind of worth mentioning when you look at wardings and protections, it's the spiritual side to it. So it is your spiritual team.
Yes.
Which consists of your ancestors, your guides, and your deity or deities. These 3 things are powerful additions to any workings that you're doing, especially wardings and protections. But they better be the last thing you lean on.
Yeah.
Because if you try to concentrate too heavily on having them do it for you, eventually one of them's going to go like, no, you need to learn this lesson. And it's going to hit. Happened to me once. A little too cocky by leaning too heavily on the Morgon. And she allowed something to slip through. And I learned my lesson.
Yep.
Don't be lazy just because you know somebody has your back.
I just got made to build a wall all
in
night.
Astral.
In Astral all night.
Instead of sleeping and dreaming.
Yeah. His guides are super nice. Mine are assholes.
I got choked. I was in a coughing fit. I couldn't breathe.
I got lit on fire.
In Astral doesn't count.
And they didn't do that to you. They just let it through.
Yeah, they let it happen. We learn in different ways.
I'm just saying, I've never had them not just let it happen. They're like, hey, watch this.
Well, thank you for joining us for Victim Olympics here. All right, guys, that is going to shut us down for the day and for the episode. As always, though, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. You can either message us through the whatever platform that you're listening to the podcast in, or on YouTube if you're watching via YouTube. You can reach out to us over Instagram or Facebook at The.Conclave.Podcast. You can email us, same thing, but with @gmail at the end. Send us your questions. We've covered a lot of question-inducing and thought-invoking topics over the last 7 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll say 5 episodes, because the February one was just more talk about holidays, and the Am I the Asshole is just kind of a fun.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, there's a lot of things that even seasoned practitioners will rehear these things, rehear the basics, and it triggers more questions. So please shoot us your questions, shoot us your comments, shoot us your concerns, and episode 13 we're going to be doing that ask a witch kind of a deal with a bunch of different practitioners. So
That'll be fun.
that's going to be a lot of fun.
But we need questions.
But we need questions. Don't make me make them up, because I will write it so that other people are asking. It's going to be really weird.
Yeah.
And now y'all will never know which direction it really was. Other than that, if you are enjoying this, please like, share, subscribe, comment,
etc.
etc.
Hit all the buttons.
Hit all the buttons. Everybody says it in every podcast out there ever.
Yeah.
So if you could, we would greatly appreciate it if you did those things, and as well spread word of mouth. That's always very helpful.
Yes.
We highly enjoy doing this, and we hope you are also. You guys behave. We'll see you next time, and go lock your door.
Yep.
Until next time.